Hello, everyone. Sorry for the late start. I made a stupid mistake, but let's not dwell on that. My name is Aldo Gandia. Danny Shimon cannot be here because he's preparing for tonight's show. We've got a big extravaganza from 7 p.m. Eastern, excuse me, Central to 8 p.m. Eastern. No. Let's take that again. I need more sleep. 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern is the start of the Bears, the draft, day one, and John Buffon will be hosting it alongside Jordan Silvera and Danny Shimon. So they're prepping for tonight's show, and I wanted to share with you some thoughts because tonight I'm going to be behind the scenes. Hopefully not screwing things up like I have so far on this show, but I'll be behind the scene, rolling graphics, rolling videos, and helping the guys, facilitating the guys with information that they need to share with you. So, but I had a couple of thoughts that I want to share, and I'll do that, though, after an interview that I had with Nick Baumgardner of The Athletic. He is one of the guys that covers the Detroit Lions and the NFL draft. And it's always fun talking to Nick because he's so down to earth. He really is the type of guy that you would love to have a beer with and talk football. He is a great guy. And then after that, I'm going to share some video from yesterday's presentation from Kevin Warren and members of the Bears staff on the proposed lakefront stadium. And I've got a couple of thoughts I'll share. Won't dwell too much on that. And then also, even before that, and right after Nick's interview, I want to share with you some thoughts I have about what the Chicago Bears should do with that number 9 overall pick. And I was reading some of the comments. I know that some people in the chat have already shared thoughts about trading the pick or naming particular players. I've got kind of a game plan in my mind. Now, I want to preface, before we get to that, I want to preface that these are just thoughts that I have in mind. I'm not endorsing anything because I haven't talked to these players. I haven't been in film sessions, of course, with any of the scouts and coaching staff and stuff. And that's really what it's all about, right? This is something that Greg Gabriel has amplified on this network. It really, truly is a collaborative effort. And so my collaboration has been with people sort of like me, people who know football like more than I do, like Danny Shimon and Jordan Silvera, but they still have not had uh, uh, um, the opportunity to sit down with scouts and the general manager and get thinking about stuff. And it's all fun, right? We're doing this for fun. So I want to share some thoughts for fun about what the Bears should probably do at 9. But before we get there, let's talk to Nick Baumgardner over at The Athletic. Promised. Here he is, Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic. Nick, how are you?
Good, Aldo. How are you?
I'm doing really, really well. I got to tell you that this draft in Detroit is going to attract tens of thousands of people from around the world.
Right.
And so what can people expect in Detroit this week if they visit the draft?
It's going to be a scene down there. Although, and I think somebody told me last week, and I had not heard this, that I think this is the first draft since they've been doing this anyway, that it's like drivable to 5 or 6 big metropolitan cities like Chicago, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, Cleveland. I think like Louisville is not that far, right? Like places like that even. So you're 100% right. I think this is going to be one of the most well-attended ones, specifically from a Midwestern standpoint, from like our neck of the woods here. I'm obviously in Detroit. You guys are Chicago area. So like downtown is ready to roll. They've got a great spot for it. They've got the big airplane hangar stage sort of up. I want to say it's not too far from like, if you know where the big fist statue is, when you come in around Kobo, it's not too far from there in a park area there. So it's a really cool spot that they've got. They got the stage all set up, and hopefully the weather's not horrific. But I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be okay. Maybe a little windy, but be all right otherwise. Should be fun.
It should be a lot of fun, and I know Detroit is up to the task of hosting this huge event. So let's talk a little bit first about the Detroit Lions and what are their needs going into this draft. You know, Brad Holmes has just done an incredible job of drafting. I remember we were doing live draft coverage last year, and our draft analysts were almost chuckling at, oh, this is a terrible choice, kids. I know. Oh, my goodness. Greg Gabriel was a former director of scouting for the Chicago Bears, criticized the Sam Laporta pick. And lo and behold, those were outstanding picks, and there were a number of others. So, what are the needs this year for the Detroit Lions? What do you expect they're going to do?
Really interesting. I mean, I keep telling people that I feel like the Lions have sort of already done the hard part with their rebuild. You know, they started it with Jared Goff, so they decided we're not going to have to mess with drafting a quarterback. They nailed it with Penei Sewell. They nailed it with Aiden Hutchinson and some of the other guys in those classes. So really, you know, a Brian Branch, like you said, Laporta, they've gotten so much good value in these other drafts that at this point, yes, they need a corner. They need an edge. They need another guard probably for long term, you know, inside for Jonah Jackson, maybe even a center long term for Frank Ragnow. But I think that the Lions have actually graduated to the spot now where sort of like Green Bay is often, or where they like to be over the years, where it's like we don't necessarily need to do anything here. We could do a lot of different things. We have team needs, like we said, corner. But I also think that a trade down seems very possible for Detroit. You know, especially if somebody wants to come up and get a quarterback, maybe at the bottom of the first. And I also don't hate the idea of a trade up for them if, you know, say a Terrion Arnold or a Quinyon Mitchell fall, because corner is really their top need. So wouldn't be shocked by a trade up, and wouldn't be shocked by a trade down. I would almost kind of maybe be surprised if they stick and pick, which might disappoint the locals, but we'll see how it goes.
What is the prevailing thought about Jared Goff now? Because I got to tell you, on our shows here on our Barroom Network, it's centered, of course, on the Chicago Bears, but we get
Right.
Detroit Lions fans coming in.
Of course.
And a lot of times we hear negative thoughts towards Jared Goff, and then he'll go out and pass for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. And boy, this guy's going to be
I know, right?
leading us to the Super Bowl, to multiple Super Bowls and so forth. What's the prevailing thought? What are you hearing from the Detroit Lions? Could they be drafting a successor to Goff in the second, day two of the draft?
I don't think so. I don't think this year we'd see that. You know, nothing would shock me, and I always say this because I think Brad Holmes is one of those general managers, like anything, be it quarterback or another position. If he finds a guy at quarterback one of these days, and maybe it is this year, I don't think so though. If he finds a guy that is like, I have to have this guy, they'll take him, and I don't think there'll be much to stop him from doing that. How that said, I think the plan right now is to find a way to get a deal done with Jared Goff to keep him here for a couple more years. And then also they drafted Hendon Hooker last year, and Hendon Hooker sat out, of course, rehabbing that ACL. Teddy Bridgewater was the backup last year. Now Hendon Hooker will be Detroit's backup. He's a little bit older, but I think they like that. And I think the prevailing thought really inside the organization is that, and this was the hope when they made the trade with Stafford and the draft picks to get him, was that Goff truly fits everything they're trying to do on offense about as well as you can. Like, you know, he's not a runner himself. That might be the only other upgrade you could make at the position for Detroit right now. But in terms of a guy who gets the ball out really fast, there's no one really faster than Goff to get the ball out of his hands. His reads are usually very clean. He's a very accurate thrower. He's very good at just keeping you on schedule, moving you down the field. You're not in wrong runs, you know, when you're supposed to be. So I think they really like his cerebral approach, and he's got a lot of arm talent, and they can protect him. So I think it's a really good fit. They were hoping that this would be what it is, but I think they really like where they're at right now with Jared Goff in general.
Yeah, I cut together a lot of lines, highlights, and so I'm always going to their website and
Sure.
all the great locker room videos that they have. It really does seem like there's a large amount of respect from the players
Yeah,
to Jared Goff, and they really want him to succeed and shut up his naysayers, because he's had a few over the years. Um,
absolutely.
let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings right now. Take this for what it's worth, but I was watching Colin Coward a couple of weeks ago, and he had the Vikings at number 10 in his top 10 teams in the NFC. I thought that was surprising, given that they really don't have a quarterback, or at
Right.
least
It's a little
a
projection.
true number one quarterback. What are your expectations for the Vikings in this upcoming draft?
Well, in its draft, I do think that they're going to go up and get quarterback. I think that they did not make those moves. After Cousins signed with Atlanta, they immediately go out and shuffle picks around to get the extra first round pick. Like, that is all by design. And there's been we've gotten flack. I've had a few different mocks or a few different exercises even where we've done trade mocks, and it's like the price of this first round pick is going to be very, very high. It's going to be more or less the equivalent of like 3 first round picks, I think, when it's all said and done. They have 2 firsts right now. They could give another one up, and and let's go get our quarterback. And like you said, there's talent there. It's not a barren roster. This is not a situation, I don't think, where the Vikings are in like a total teardown rebuild. But I do think they're in a unique situation where you can get a quarterback, be it JJ McCarthy, even a guy who definitely needs a little bit of time, get a bridge in there, let the young guy learn. You've still got Jefferson and these guys that are young football players. Darrisaw's up there on the offensive line, good young football player. So I think you're at a position to sort of reset yourself, find the right fit for Kevin O'Connell, and then maybe next year you really start to spring forward. But this year I would think this would be kind of a learning year for Minnesota. But this is a big year for them to get the right quarterback and make sure they get that done the way they want it.
Yeah, there have been some arguments, credible arguments, in my opinion, that a rookie quarterback, the Minnesota Vikings might have the best supporting cast around a rookie quarterback if Jefferson is not going to hold out and
Right.
and some other things. So they've got
Hawkinson, too, yeah.
yeah, exactly. All right, what about the Green Bay Packers? A lot of us were surprised at the ascension of Jordan Love. We were everyone in Chicago and Detroit.
It's all wishful thinking here.
Exactly. Well, I guess that's not going to happen. They're going to have their third straight excellent quarterback.
Yep.
What are your thoughts about what the Green Bay Packers are doing, and what are your expectations for this upcoming draft?
Yeah, they're in a great spot, and what a great job they've done, not only believing in, but help continuing to develop Jordan Love, right? But giving him the opportunity and keeping the confidence up. That was cool to see. Even if I got to think, not a Lions or Bears fan, but anybody else or Vikings fan, it was cool to see that progression, because he did look like the guy that we remember evaluating coming out of college all those years ago. That was now suddenly a long time ago. And what it's really allowed them to do leading into this draft is, they've already answered a lot of questions in a lot of areas. They're sort of like what Detroit's at. They didn't make it as far last year, but I really think the Packers are, they made some splashes in free agency. They signed a safety, McKinney. I think they can still add in the defensive backfield. I think they can be selective at how they do it. Maybe they can jump at the best safety available. Maybe they can take the best running back available. They need a running back. So I think they can be kind of selective and kind of nimble. They also have a lot of picks in this draft. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them move around a little bit and maybe take a swing somewhere, package a bunch, move up, get a guy that they really like. Because I do think Green Bay has a really good young football team. And, I would rank the order right now in terms of good young talent that's surging forward. And all of them really, except for maybe Minnesota, qualify. It would be Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, really not far behind Detroit. And then Chicago, probably closer to those two than people probably realize, because there's a lot of really good young talent in the division in general.
I read somewhere that the University of Michigan, I probably read this at The Athletic, the University of Michigan is expected to have more players drafted at any other school from the NCAA. So,
right.
Let's start with the number one ranked player out of Michigan, and that's J.J. McCarthy. What are your observations about J.J. McCarthy? What kind of a quarterback is he, and can he have any type of success as a rookie quarterback or in the NFL, or do you think that he might be better suited to sit for a year, learn for a year, or maybe more like a la Jordan Love? What are your thoughts about J.J.?
I think the JJ plan would be your perfect scenario. Might be what they did with Mahomes, where it's 1 year and he learns from somebody and there's no pressure on him. And like I always like to think too, if it's a scenario where he's playing well and he's surprising you in camp, because it wouldn't shock me if he goes in and is more ready to go than people realize. Because the thing with JJ McCarthy is, and to answer the question, I do think he can be a good starter in the NFL, a productive starter. I do think based on all the risks that you're taking here and some of the habits that he needs to break, there probably is a case to be made that he needs some time. But, I think if you have the time to give him, like if you're Minnesota or even Denver, I think is a good situation. Denver's got a nice offensive line. They can protect him and help him a little bit. I think that, I think that's kind of what you're looking for JJ, because he's still 20 years old. You don't want to put, undue pressure on him like the Jets ended up doing with Wilson, or putting him in an awkward situation with, like Lance, right? Because he needs to play, he needs to get reps. But the problem isn't lack of, like, we've seen 2,000 throws from this kid, and he's made the same mistake a bunch of times, and we don't know if he'll be able to correct it. It's not that. It's there's just not that many NFL caliber throws that he was ever asked to make at Michigan. I mean, and what he was asked to make, that he made more than his share. It's just there's a great deal of unknown with him, and it wouldn't shock me if he comes in and surprises people, and it also wouldn't shock me if he comes in and needs a lot of time. So, yeah, I think that I like him a lot, but I think that he's one where you're going to need talent around him if you're going to ask him to do something right now. But ideally, I think you'd need a situation where you can give him time.
He truly is the biggest mystery in this draft, at least from a first round perspective, for me. I mean, in the middle of the college football season, we had one of our analysts here saying this quarterback is a top 10 pick in the NFL. I'm like, what are you seeing?
Right. Yeah, I know.
And then another analyst said, I'm hearing from a lot of people in the NFL that they love this guy. NFL teams love this guy. They love his moxie. They love his character and so forth. And he's going to be a first round. And again, I was like, I know that he runs a pro style offense, but is it really a pro style offense at Michigan, given that they're not throwing the ball like they do in the NFL nowadays? Right. So I guess that's my question for you. You've seen him probably throw every pass that he did in college. How do you assess his throwing?
That is a great point. It's not technically a pro style offense. It's a pro style run game. They are very advanced in what they do with the run game, and they have a lot of spread stuff in there too. But there's a lot of responsibility on McCarthy in the way that they call plays and the way that they run offense. He has a ton at the line of scrimmage. There's not a lot of check with me to the sideline. If you watch Michigan State, it's a lot of, if they're not in something that they don't like, it's up to him to get them out of it. So there's a lot of that. He did that in high school at IMG as well. He is a smarter player, I think, pre-snap than people probably, realize. The problem with him is just sort of consistency, doing things that he's not comfortable with. Michigan did a really good job of masking his problem spots. Like, you'll note, whenever he rolls out to throw, it's always to the right? Like, most everything that they did with him is to the right, because when he's asked to do anything to the left, it becomes an inconsistent kind of an adventure. But, the end-all point of J.J. McCarthy, and the reason why NFL teams have really liked him for probably 2 years, quite a bit actually, we started hearing about him midway through like his freshman season, is the arm talent. He's got the twitchy, spine like Patrick Mahomes has. He can get the ball out from any angle with big-time velocity. And he plays the game with an aggressive mindset that, Bears fans will, it's like Jim Harbaugh. He plays football. That's the NFL comp, is a more athletic Jim Harbaugh, a guy who refuses to take an incompletion. I'm either going to run it, or we're going to go for it. If it's 3rd and 13, we're not checking the ball down right. We're going to go for the first down here. That's how he plays the game. A lot of teams like that as well. And, you combine that with a lot of that arm talent, and they see, hey, maybe he can be a poor man's Caleb here or something like that. Or maybe Caleb can be a poor man's Mahomes. Maybe JJ can be a poor man's Caleb, something like that. So that's the idea, but it's a mystery in all of that. Although I think I lost my sound. I don't know what happened.
Well, that's because I failed to. My apologies.
No worries.
I saw your appearance. I saw your appearance on Hogan Johns, and I think it was Adam Johns that said that JJ is like an NFC North quarterback.
Yes.
He really is a throwback in many cases. And being from Naperville, he would have been a perfect Chicago Bear, but that's not going to happen. Instead, it's going to be Caleb Williams. Your assessment on Caleb Williams?
Love Caleb Williams. I think that a lot of the down talk on Caleb comes from people who are maybe older, who just don't quite understand the current landscape in college football. Caleb Williams is, for the lack of a better phrase, I think in college athletics, Caleb Williams is the face of NIL today. Caleb Williams and I would say Caitlin Clark are the two that we would say are the faces of NIL. He's probably the wealthiest college athlete to enter a pro situation, certainly during the NIL era, maybe ever. He's a millionaire. He's not afraid to show it. And with all that, he has taken control of his process, including what he did in college, more than anybody else that we've seen, because he has money. And I think that, that money gives people the ability to create leverage for themselves. So a lot of the off-field stuff that got asked about or that got brought up about him, I think it gets overblown because I think when you take it back to football, this is a guy that teammates loved him at Oklahoma and they loved him at USC. That was said both times. He was an immediate fit at USC when he walked in the door out of nowhere, and he was already a superstar making a million some bucks. They didn't win a lot of games, but that's not necessarily his fault. And then when you watch him play, he is the most unique player in the draft. He has the ability to, his arm talent is, I don't, generational is a hard word, but it's one of those things where it comes along once in a decade. When you combine all of it, the ability to move around in the pocket, stay in the pocket and read a defense and make every single throw possible, but also get out of the pocket, reset, scramble, and make throws out of it. That's what Mahomes does. He'll kill you in the pocket, but he'll also kill you when he gets out and runs around. Caleb Williams is a generational talent, no question about it. And it's a matter of can you get him comfortable, and you can get the right people around him, and can you support him because he has the goods to do all the things I think people have claimed. I think he'll live up to the hype.
I could not agree more with your assessment on Caleb as a player and also the disruptive nature he is for the old guard in the NFL. I've heard a lot of stories about people being upset that he was trying to do this, get around the CBA to get a higher salary and try to do that and so forth. And so the old guard is like, who the hell does he think he is? And now, it's people are just going to have to get used to it, like we have everything else.
Because I think in 5 years this will be the norm. And I said this at the combine when Caleb didn't weigh in and didn't do any of that stuff, and then Neighbors didn't and Daniels didn't. I was like, you know what, guys, 5 years we might not be standing here because the whole thing is going to change now. You got to have the talent to do it, of course, and Caleb does, but it's going to change, and we're going to see that happen for sure.
Yeah, my prediction on the combine is that they're going to break it up. Well, they already do regional combines, and so that's what's going to be the TV event. Instead of just having one big combine, you're going to have like five different nights of coverage, and it's going to be regional talent.
I hadn't thought about that. I like that. That's a good call.
Okay, so I've already kept you more than I promised. So I'd love to get your thoughts on some Michigan players that are coming out. Mm-hmm. Let's start with Chris Jenkins. Your thoughts on him, please.
Freaky athlete. Excuse me. One of the probably their best pound for pound athlete in general at Michigan. Some of the numbers that leaked out or that Bruce Feldman reported last year and 2 years ago in the freaks list, they're like his explosion at 300 pounds is outstanding. His agility at 300 pounds is outstanding. Braden Fisk did some testing a little bit better than him, but he was pretty much the best pound for pound athlete, at the combine. He can be inconsistent. There are things with him where I think that he changed his weight a lot at Michigan. Like he played high or played heavy over 300 and played low under 300. They moved him around a lot too. Like he played quite a bit early in his career. He played inside. So I think that whenever he finds, his home, one spot, I think he's going to be really good because he's got more tools than his dad had. He's not as big, but he's got more physical capabilities than his dad had, and his dad was awesome. But the strength, the explosion, and the burst, and all of it, like there's nobody that is going to, bully him. So really good player.
Your thoughts on Mr. Roman Wilson, who on Dane Brugler's top 100 is 41. What kind of a pro is he going to be?
Love Roman Wilson. Michigan, he's indicative of their whole team. I think like one of the toughest receivers in this class, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of really good ones. Roman Wilson probably blocks as hard or more or better than anybody in the class. He's got really reliable hands, adjust to the ball really well in the air. Did a great job in his 4 years there of becoming a much better route runner. By the time he was a senior, like he was super dependable. Like most every catch he had was a 3rd and long conversion or some sort of or a touchdown, or a first down, whatever it was. Like he was, the big catch he had, I think it was in the Rose Bowl that pretty much saved the game for them. Just like a high character, super dependable player who is going to get taken higher than his size will indicate because of his production, consistency, and toughness.
Can you think of a player comp for him?
That's a great question because he's skinny. He's like a tougher, less skilled Devonta Smith, because I think he's going to be really reliable and just bendy and like, a little bit different body type, but I feel like there's some similarities there maybe.
Very good. All right. Junior Colson, the linebacker.
Oh man, he's the talk about throwback. He's the closest we have to the old school linebacker in this class. Him and maybe Edgerrin Cooper, maybe one other guy. He's 240 plus. We do not see many linebackers anymore who are 240 plus. And the difference with Colson, I think Colson is one of these guys that if anybody from this Michigan class surprises and goes to the end of the first, it's going to be him, I think, because he's got unique size, length, speed. He was also a 3-year starter, true freshman starter inside. He's a really good 3-down linebacker, and there's just not that many of them this year. Not that many of them in any year, really, anymore. So really rare, kind of a rare player in some ways.
I really like this player, but I always have difficulty pronouncing his name. The slot corner, Mike Sanistrol.
Almost.
Am I?
Yeah.
Okay.
I say Sainra still. I guess I don't know technically what it is. Sainra still, but that's what I say.
Okay. 5'9". That's probably the only knock on the guy, because every time I've seen him play, he's making big plays. He's a really good player.
Yeah, another guy who was he played receive, came to Michigan as a receiver, switched to defensive back, covered kicks, was probably their smartest defensive back in terms of like he was never out of position, always around the ball, great ball skills, really good speed, fearless tackler, high football character, and off the field, he was 2-time captain. And really, people forget this now, I think, a little bit because Michigan had such a good run there at the end of the Harbaugh era. But it was bad for a little while there. And Mike Sanders still, maybe as much or more than any one player on that team, was responsible for the culture shift. He helped change. So I think he's going to be a guy that goes somewhere and immediately changes the room temperature, like immediately helps build or continue to build the culture that you have there in place.
And finally, Blake Corum, the running back. Boy, I saw him at the combine.
Yeah.
We talked about a guy that is physically intimidating.
Yes. Yeah.
What's your profile on him?
He's a pro. He's a pro all the way. I think he's been a pro since he was like a sophomore, pretty much. Like he's a very, very mature guy, a lot like Sanders still, and it's similar to that. Like few guys, I think he was a 2-time captain as well. A few guys get more credit than they do in terms of leadership there. Like I've had old Michigan captains that won Big Ten championships from way back when say the program hasn't had better leaders, and those two guys, Corum is one of them. Very dependable. Like will do whatever he's asked to do. I think he's going to be a really good first down back and complementary player to another really good. Like if you have, I love the Browns for him because Nick Chubb is obviously a star, but he needs somebody to take some load off now and again. And I think Corum is that kind of guy. Like he can fit right underneath another really good runner and really probably play above whatever his draft slot is in terms of kind of like what Roschon Johnson could be for the Bears. Just a really dependable, solid player.
Any other player in this draft that you are just itching to share with us your thoughts on?
One guy that my favorite story in the draft, Quantez Stickers from the CFL, the Toronto Argonauts. I actually did a story on him earlier in the winter. It's probably the most fascinating one I've seen in some time. He is a kid who, and I think he'll be a day 3 defensive back. I think he's a safety or a corner. But he did not play college football. No college football. Had some family tragedies. So he drops out of school at 18 years old. Gets a job. Was working at a car wash, doing all sorts of regular stuff. Kind of randomly happens to join a 7-on-7 league. Got spotted by a scout. All things go from there. Was the defensive player of the rookie of the year last year at the CFL or in the entire CFL. Went to the Shrine Bowl. Was very good there. I think he had his own pro day in Atlanta, and I think all 32 teams were at it. So he's one that you'll hear a lot about on Saturday on TV, and he's a great dude with a great family and just a really cool kid. That's going to be a fun one to see that go through.
Yeah, I first heard of him when I read your article, and that's one of the reasons I love The Athletic. It's a great subscription publication, so to speak, and it's probably worth every nickel and much more for the subscription. And sometimes you get these great deals. Subscribe for $1.
We got one right now, although a deal right now. Actually, subscribe.
Tell us about it.
We have a deal right now. It'll get you in for $1. I believe it'll be up all week for the draft week. I'm not positive on that. But it's up right now today, as Monday, as we're talking. So should be up most of the week.
Excellent. And tell people where they can follow your work and on social media and so forth.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Nick Baumgardner, on Instagram and Threads at Nick Baumgardner FB, and just on the Athletic in general right now, everywhere. I guess that's where we're getting ready for the draft.
I love it, Nick. You're great. Really appreciate the talk to you. The only thing we were missing, maybe a later hour and a couple of beers. That's the only thing we're
next
missing.
time. There you go. Yes, next time.
All right, Nick. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Aldo.
All right, that was Nick Baumgardner of The Athletic. He really is a great guy, and I'm totally sincere. The subscription fee to The Athletic is worth every penny, and there's some really good writers there, not just covering the Chicago Bears. I'm a big fan of Kevin Fishbane in particular, but also all the other NFL teams, and if you like other sports like baseball and basketball, they do a phenomenal job of that. And of course, Dane Brugler's The Beast is by far, I think, not. There's some other good draft guides out there. So depending on your taste, Dane Brugler, if you want all of that detail, background, and where his family, all the stuff that scouts put together for their teams, Dane has it, and his endorsements are, not just from me, but from lots and lots of people. And of course, Nick's work at The Athletic is fantastic as well. All right, I promised you that I'd share some thoughts regarding the draft that's coming up tonight, and in particular, what the Chicago Bears are going to do. Now, this is more of an opinion, and I'm not saying that the Chicago Bears should definitely do this. What I am saying is that when it comes down to the number 9 pick, I'm not, well, even before that, I am not, absolutely not endorsing trading up for a pick unless it's someone very, very special. Let me see if I got my graphic up here. Like one of the 3 wide receivers, I would see, what the asking price is for, because I think these 3 wide receivers are the absolute best wide receivers that have come out in some time. And any one of them would be a superb, absolutely superb addition to this team. And what you really want to do in this draft and this entire offseason is try to provide an environment for Caleb Williams that is going to help him succeed. Now, we already have 2 outstanding wide receivers, of course, DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, but after that, the depth falls off the table. And so you really, you're hoping to come away with a couple of wide receivers in this draft. But at the very least, if you come away with a Rome Odunze or a Marvin Harrison Jr. or a Malik Neighbors, then you're doing good. But at number 9, if any of these 3 players are available, I would love it. Now, it's highly, highly unlikely, of course, that those 3 players, all of them are going to be available, but I'm going to put them in this order. Because of the relationship that Rome Odunze has with Caleb Williams, because the Chicago Bears need a true X receiver, I've got Rome Odunze, just like I think, I'm not sure. Danny, I think, has Marvin Harrison number 1. But in terms of fitting into the Chicago Bears, I want this guy. I want this guy. I want him, even to the fact that I would overlook Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, I know I said it. People are throwing tomatoes at me already. I can feel them on the screen. But I want a guy, and this has a lot to do with hearing him speak at the combine and some of the interviews that he's done, the work ethic that we saw at the combine. All of the drills were finished, but he had a personal goal of running the 3 cone drill, and he wanted to achieve that goal, and he kept trying and kept trying and kept trying. That's the type of player you want. I'm sure Marvin Harrison has those similar traits too, that competitive spirit, a good teammate and so forth, but he hasn't revealed that, and he I have not seen a sit-down interview with Marvin that has made me think, I really think he would be a great fit for the Bears. I have seen it with Rome. I know the relationship Caleb has with Rome, and so that's why I have him at number 1. And then, of course, you want Marvin Harrison Jr. As Dane Brugler writes in the Athletic, overall, Harrison has dominant receiving traits and can win from anywhere on the field. And because of those athletic gifts, that the route savvy and adjustment finishing skills at the catch point, he is among the best receiving prospects to enter the NFL in recent memory. So if the cost of moving up for Marvin is something the Bears think would be good for the team, yeah, why not add Marvin Harrison? And of course, the third wide receiver is Malik Neighbors. You want him on your team. He ran a 4.38, and that type of speed the Bears have not had at the wide receiver, at least from a legitimate pass-catching wide receiver. I mean, you look at Velus Jones, he probably runs that kind of speed, but he can't catch the ball. That's the problem. And as Brugler writes here, he has average size and strength, but he offers dynamic potential because of his ability to accelerate and decelerate on command, and always makes himself available with his athletic catch point skills. He projects as a playmaking receiver in the NFL. So that's my thinking going into tonight's draft and what the Chicago Bears should do. Those 3 players. Now, people are asking, well, what about this guy? What about that guy? What about this guy? I think that the only blue chip players that I would pick at number 9 would be one of those 3 players. If Joe Alt, who is designated as a blue chip player, if Dallas Turner, who I would love to see on the Chicago Bears, is designated as a blue chip player, I would consider trading down and bypassing Alt and Dallas Turner and some of the other guys, because I want to add some more draft picks. I think that we can get by without those blue chip players if the return on that trade allows us to positively ensure either a low blue chip player or a high red chip player. So I did a mock draft on Pro Football Focus with that intent. And so let me see if I can find it here. Here it is. So the receivers were gone. I pick Caleb, of course, number 1. Get the trade calls. There were about a half dozen trade requests available, and I worked out this deal with the Seattle Seahawks. Gave them the number 9, and in return, I got a first rounder, number 16 overall, a third rounder, a fourth rounder, a next year's third and fourth rounder. Now, you could say, well, you should have got a first rounder. Whatever. I thought this was good enough. I would, when you're dropping down 7 spots, I would like to get a first rounder. But I wanted to play this out and see if my scenario of trading out of the 9, what would happen. And lo and behold, now, of course, this is a internet mock draft, PFF, whether you like them or not. It is what it is. But in this scenario, Dallas Turner was still available at number 16. And PFF gave me an A+. So that's the kind of scenario that could happen. And of course, the Chicago Bears scouting people and player personnel people and that entire team, they've played out these mocks. I'm not sure they've used PFF or whatever. I think that they've assigned people on their team to do the research as to what other teams' needs are, and based on what's being heard and so forth, they played out these scenarios. And so if they played out a scenario to where a guy like Dallas Turner, or pick your pass rushing guy that you really love. So I know some people have commented that they really like Jared Verse. Then you pull the trigger. We're 95% certain that Dallas Turner or Jared Verse or whoever that other player is that you covet is going to be available at that number 16 pick. Then you pull the trigger. So that's my thinking going in, is to be flexible and malleable with that number 9 pick. You've done the homework. You've already called teams and said, "Hey, are you interested in a number 9 pick? And if so, give us a call with your offer while the number 8 pick is being announced or before it's being announced." So set things up and walk away with this from this draft with a monumental haul. And that I define that monumental haul is in quotes, now I'm using this in quotes, generational quarterback. I know he hasn't proven it yet, but the forecasts from many is that he's a generational talent. And so now he has to execute that in the field. So a monumental haul is Caleb Williams, one of those 3 receivers, or more draft picks for that number 9 pick that will allow you to address some of the depth positions, some of the holes still on the roster. This could be Ryan Poe's signature draft, and he could really put his name among the mark of some of the best general managers. Luck has played a big role in it. Who knew we were going to get the number 1 overall pick when we made that trade with the Carolina Panthers last year? Although I did kind of say that, hey, I think we got a chance to get 2 number 1s in a row. I think a lot of people might have said that. But the Panthers proved to be as bad as I thought they were going to be, especially when they picked that quarterback, who I thought was not overall first-round quality quarterback. So that's what I'm thinking. Looking at some of the comments in the chat, see, John earlier put Caleb Williams on who he'd like to see the Bears take at number 9. Yes, I saw that. CBS Sports, I think it was among the first to report it. I'd probably go Olu Fashanu. This is Caleb talking, because I know he'd put his life on the line for me. And then one of the top 3 wide receivers. So, Fashanu is a boyhood friend of Caleb. They played together in high school. So I think that was the kind of the politically correct thing for Caleb to say. I think really, if you saw Fashanu play at Penn State last year, he probably would be asking to him, "What happened last year, bro? You had a better year in 2022." And Pepe adds to that, Olo's been one of the top left tackle prospects for a while. He would have been the first tackle off the board last year if he left college. He would be an upgrade over Braxton, but he has flaws too. I agree with that. And Scott added to that, "I don't see the fascination with Olu, and I'm a Penn State fan." Pepe adds, "Odunze or Neighbors would be the dream at 9. Travis said, "When people talk about only having 4 picks like it's a bad thing, hey, Sweat was our 2nd-round pick. Allen our 4th. Bates our 5th. We can pick 4 studs here and be good, or at least 2 out of 4. And Travis, I think your post there perfectly captures my sentiments too about this draft. I've been saying for people, we have a 2nd-round pick. It's the number 9 overall. We have the best 2nd-round pick. When you attribute the fact that every team has a pick in every round, well, we don't have one in round 2, but we've got one in round 1. Doesn't that mean that, who cares? We don't have a pick between after 9 until the 75th pick. We've got 2 picks in the top 9. So let's not cry over not having a 2nd-round pick. Although I would consider trading that number 9 again if the board falls a certain way. John says, I have 5th. He has a 5th of Maker's Mark and a Cuban cigar for the draft. Way to go, John. Keenan Allen says John is going to play 10 games in a Bears uniform, and he is a 1-year rental, not someone who will be armed for 3 years. He hasn't played a full season since 2018. And that's another reason, John, that behind my thinking is why you should try to get one of these 3 blue chip wide receivers, because Keenan Allen is a 1-year rental. I highly, highly doubt that he is going to sign an extension. There are some caveats to that. He could, he could love Chicago so much and his teammates and smell Super Bowls that he would agree to a 2 or 3 year extension. But this guy left the Chargers because he would not renegotiate his contract. And he said, I'm coming off my best year ever. Why should I take a pay cut? So, at this point in his career, in his life, in his early 30s, he's looking for the biggest payday possible to finish his career. So I don't think, I know that Ryan Pace has expressed sticker shock at the prices some of these wide receivers are going. So I don't think that Keenan Allen is going to get an extension. If you're going to give an extension to any of those two wide receivers, it would be DJ Moore. And if you gave it to him after this season, even though he's got a year left on his contract, that would lower the cap and be a much more conducive situation for the Chicago Bears and how they manage the cap. So those are some of the comments from earlier. I'm looking here to see if there's anything else that I can share with you. It looks not. So those are my thoughts regarding tonight's draft is Caleb, and then looking for one of the top 3 wide receivers. And if not, then investigate what you have, what offers you get for that number 9 pick. And they could be very, very high because the J.J. McCarthy is kind of that wild card in this draft. We could potentially see a lot of teams craving for him and make some ridiculous trade offers to Ryan Poles. And how could you say no? In that PFF draft scenario where I only got a 3rd rounder and a 4th rounder from 2015 could easily be a 1st rounder for some teams. Let's see. Peter A is saying, although we can take a quick and then nothing, but if you gather those thoughts, I will address it after I get to this next segment. All right. So yesterday, Kevin Warren, the team president, met with the media and some very influential people at Soldier Field to talk about their proposal to build a multi-billion-dollar indoor sports facility, concert facility, and so forth. The Bears would put up about $2 billion, and then they're basically asking the city and state to pay for the rest of it. I'm going to share some thoughts. Let's listen to Mr. Warren describe the facility along with artist renderings of the facility. Now, I have edited this down because, in my opinion, I thought Mr. Warren did not do a really good sales job on this. There were long pauses, there were misstatements and so forth. So just for our purposes, to keep interest in this, I edited out a bunch of those pauses and may have edited out some of the lines that he said because I thought they were redundant or not necessary for this 2-minute and 24-second video. Now, these are artist renderings, so the biggest thing is not just to listen to what he says, but also to see these visuals.
There's Promenade Plaza, food, beverages, sports culture museum. But you can imagine this being activated on a Final Four for a Super Bowl, college football playoff, concerts. Even having a concert inside, you could have it where city residents could come similar to the U.S. Open or Wimbledon and bring blankets and be able to enjoy the concert outside. One of the reasons why we strongly believe that the museum campus is the best location is that we've been in this area for 100 years. Our proposal is just to move it a little bit south of where we currently sit now to carry on the tradition. We're here. This design, and I hope you like it, is very contemporary, but it also embodies the essence of the museums. It will have a fixed roof. People have said, did you consider a retractable roof? Yes, but that's another couple $100 million. And when we talked to organizations who had retractable roofs, they said they used it maybe 3 or 4 times a year. We tried to be fiscally responsible by building the stadium. This roof will be a translucent roof, so you'll be indoors. You'll get all the benefits of being indoors, but you'll feel like you're outdoors. This will be spectacular views of Chicago's iconic skyline and lakefront. That lake that we have here is the greatest piece of art that exists on the planet. The seating bowl is intimate. That glass is clear glass, and those will be massive windows that you'll be able to take in the beauty of the city. As you can see, we'll be designing to host global events like the World Cup, FIFA, and other soccer events. The layout will be able to have concerts. Many of you went to Taylor Swift. You saw what that did for our city.
I truly believe this is a great city, the city of Chicago. Yes, it's got its problems like every major city does. There's crime is running rampant in downtown. I've never in my life, seen and heard about so much crime in downtown Chicago. Now, when I was a kid, I used to go downtown a lot. And so this was the 70s. I go to the downtown movie theaters. And back then, they were dilapidated theaters, rats running around. But, we'd go over to see the karate movies and The Exorcist and bring in a bottle of wine and drink while the movie was on. And it was outside those theaters, outside the rat-infested theaters, it was dangerous. But the proliferation of guns, the availability of guns, and I'm not getting political here, guys. I'm just saying I believe in the right to own guns, but the proliferation of guns has made things even more dangerous now. And there's even more people downtown where you've got these situations where people are gathering together as a gang and attacking people and so forth. So I'm going there only to say that shouldn't we prioritize things? And maybe building a $4 billion stadium will help with that crime issue. But maybe we should talk about that more, about making our streets safer for our youth, than talking about how a $4 billion stadium is going to be great for kids to play out because there's going to be a play area for kids and so forth. I also, when Kevin Warren was hired, I was a huge fan of the hire. I know some people disliked him because he went along with the recommendations from the government to shut down the Big Ten season, I sort of excused that because that's what health experts were telling him, and that this was dangerous. In hindsight, probably wasn't that dangerous, although we could debate that for a long time. But nonetheless, I saw a HBO profile on him, and I was so impressed with the fact that this kid had a serious bicycle accident that left him immobile, and then he fought his way back to being able to walk, run, and play college basketball. And he's had so much success as a lawyer, as a member of winning football organizations. The success he had in Minnesota in helping to build the U.S. Bank Stadium there, which is a phenomenal facility, and it's on my bucket list of visiting. So he came with a resume that I'm really super excited. But now I'm starting to question: is this guy really the right guy? I'm not saying that he isn't. I'm just now starting to see some of the blemishes that make me think that maybe he's not handling this right. There's been some speculation because he wouldn't answer the question, is Arlington Heights now off the table? He never said, yes, they are off the table. He said, we're putting all of our focus into the lakefront. That leaves, of course, an opening for Arlington Heights to get back in. And yes, okay, we could argue that he's being a negotiator, and that's the way people in big business negotiate. You use some tough tactics and so forth. He called the mayor of Chicago his favorite mayor. That might have been a shot at the Arlington Heights mayor. Whatever, I'm just thinking to myself, maybe some of the criticism that's been leveled at Kevin Warren is justified. So more to come on that. We ultimately will judge people in those positions by the results of their work. So far, we've got some 3D animation of the stadium. We've got the attention of some high rollers. We've got some artist renderings. Much more to come. And so I'm going to hold out further judgment on Kevin Warren. I just hope that he is allowing Ryan Poles to finish his mission. Ryan Poles came in to George McCaskey and said, the way I would run this is completely tear things down and rebuild. And so this is his third draft, Ryan Poles, and this could be the culmination of that rebuild. This could be the moment that we say, all right, we are ready for contention, even though we'll have a rookie quarterback. Hey, the Texans made the playoffs with a rookie quarterback this year, and Caleb will have more talent in some of the skill positions than the Texans did at the beginning of last season. Of course, we found out that Tank Dell was a revelation. I mean, a revelation. I saw him down at the Senior Bowl and thought, this guy's going to be good. But that good? Holy cow. And if it wasn't for that injury, he probably could have been the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Maybe not because of his quarterback. But nonetheless, this year for the Chicago Bears could be the culmination of the rebuild. And tonight, Jordan Silvera, Danny Shimon, John Buffone will take us through this monumental draft and discuss the not only the Bears picks, but also other draft picks and how they will affect the Chicago Bears. To give you a taste as to what's going to go on later tonight, I have this. I want to play the opening for you from this from tonight's show. It gave out on me, so sorry about that. I'm gonna have to leave it as a tease. Jordan says it's gonna be a wild night, Aldo. Trades galore and plenty of surprises in the top 10. Yeah, we'll have to, given my technical breakdown there, we'll have to take your word for it, Jordan. So I apologize. I'll try to post that on social media so that you can get a taste as to what's going on tonight. So I will definitely do that. So I'm going to just leave you with this. Let's all gather. Let's all be Bears fans. Let's all cheer the results. Let's trust in polls. And then after we see what's out on the football field, then we can make our fair and honest assessments as to whether he succeeded or not. It's going to be a big, big time tonight for Chicago Bears fans. With that, I'm going to close this show and tell you we'll hopefully see you tonight at 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern for the Bears, the draft, and day one.